50s. That's when Jack Coen came and settled in Woodlawn, a virtually all-Irish community in the Bronx, one of New York's most ethnically diverse boroughs. This is his instrument, the traditional wooden flute. Few played as well as Jack Coen. Surely no one cares more about playing Irish traditional music the right way, the way it's been played for hundreds of years.
I remember where I got the first penny whistle. They used to sell them in the candy stores around Christmas time. It was considered a toy more than an instrument. They said they cost a penny, but that would be long before my time. And I asked my father the story, if he knew anything about the penny whistle. He said there were no whistles of any description when he was growing up. Not around our part of the country. There were flutes, though. They were there before the whistle. I used to cycle miles through the country that time trying to find a flute for sale. You'd hear there was one here, you'd hear there was one there, so you'd head off, and when you got there wasn't anything. Or there might be one there, but they wouldn't sell it. It was a family heirloom or something that they didn't want to part with, even though there was nobody in the house who could play it. My brother had a job in Dublin at the time, and I had him looking. So he wrote me a letter, and he says there was a flute for sale in a hock shop in Dublin, and it was 25 shillings. So I answered back the letter, and I asked him if it was a full-size flute, if it was concert pitch, if it was in the key of D, and a whole lot of awkward questions like that he couldn't care less about. And he wrote me back a letter, and he said, it's a flute, it's 25 shillings, do you want it or don't you? So I sent him another letter, just as big. I said, send it.
Hello, Jack.
Hi, Danny.
How are you?
I was born a mile outside of the town of Woodford in the County Galway, and we had a small farm of land there. I had one brother, Charlie, who was a priest, and when I left home, he was a beginner. Actually, I showed him, I guess, his first tunes on a tin whistle and on a fife.
To a large extent, it was what instrument was available. It was very like employment in Ireland. You took whatever job you got. My father played the concertina,
You got a little one.
so I kind of wanted to carry on that tradition.
A little G. That'd be great for somebody that's about 6 years old. So this is how everybody starts. They start at the beginning. There was a big family, and when the day's work is done, there was always a baby sitting on his knee, and he was always singing songs to him, and lilting tunes. You couldn't help but pick it up.
I think it's in your being somehow, that this music that you grew up to, the beat of the hornpipe and the reel and the sequence of notes and all the rest of it.
Oh, very good. That's good.
Now, however, when this music is played for Irish people, it's more than just the music itself. It's all the memories, the emotions that it conjures up. For Irish immigrants in America particularly, there's a sort of lifetime embedded in the music itself, a constellation of cultural memories.
Isn't it a grand-looking flute? I came to this country, America, in 1949.
How's everything?
That's good. How about yourself?
Very good. No sense complaining.
Yeah.
No one listens.
How's your
Well, there were 9 of my family, and we had one farm of land, and everybody couldn't stay home and inherit that particular farm of land. So that meant that 8 had to paddle their own canoe along some way to some foreign shore and seek a home for themselves and a way of living. So I came here with in hopes of finding a job, making some money, and going back. So what happened was I found a job, and I found a wife, and I never went back. It's down near the bottom, but it's good.
At the bottom of the bottle, you can't beat it either.
When I arrived in America, I found it very difficult. I couldn't play at all. Coming from the country into the city with the subways and trains and all the rest of it, and the whole tempo of life was completely out of sync with Irish music.
There was a dry spell there of about 6 years after I coming out that I didn't play.
Yes, happy days.
Happy days, Mike.
May the Lord take a great liking to us 100 years from now.
And then I met a friend of mine, or bumped into a great accordion player by the name of Paddy O'Brien, and he got me back playing again. A session is very informal, and everybody just tears away and plays the best way they can. It's a social gathering of musicians to have a night's fun and to swap a few tunes.
Well, there's a great feeling of exhilaration, I know, when you get 8 or 9 people coming from all kinds of different places without any rehearsal or anything, and just diving into tunes that are part of you.
You're playing music with people who are friends or acquaintances who have a lot of shared experiences. And the music is embedded in a large extended family.
The other version of that is called I Buried Me Wife and I Danced on Top of Her.
What a cruel thing to do, to dance on top of her, you know. That was,
Well, it
that
was a
was a
cool
nice
thing to do, but she didn't know the difference anyway.
A lot of the tunes over the centuries have had a lot of the material that's not necessary stripped away, and what you're left with is something essential, something that's been forged by countless recreations of the same tune.
That's not the right second part in that?
Well, it's not the one that I know. That doesn't mean it's not right.
The strength of the tradition derives from the players who have kept it alive, playing in their homes. And if musicians are somehow taught in that context, if they learn from picking it up from the older musicians, sooner or later in their lives they'll go back to that.
The Ballydesmond Four?
Pencil Hill?
Spancel Hill?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can't make a musician out of somebody.
Nice and slow. Don't try to hurry.
It was handed down to me, that's the way I got it. I'd like to hand it down to some few others that might preserve it. I hope that they pick up some of it. I have no control over what they do once they leave here. But I hope that some of the things that I tell them will rub off.
I'd say for a long time, the Irish were subdued and their culture was belittled for so many years that they came here kind of with the desire to leave it and forsake it and didn't want to be associated with it.
There were very few people over the years here in America that really cared an awful lot about the music.
Sure, what kind of a bun? A scone?
Yeah, that'll be grand.
With raisins?
Traditional music was associated with backwardness and with the bogman. It used to be called the bogman's music. It was associated with a lack of upward social mobility.
Okay.
Very good.
The only real answer as to why the music survived was because the people who played it really loved it. It brings you right back home. It brings you back to the memories of the place that you've left behind, and a place that will never, ever be the same again.
Kilkelly, Ireland, 1875, dear and loving son, John. Hello to your missus and and strong. Michael has got in a wee bit of trouble. I suppose that he never will learn. Because of the dampness, there's no turf to speak of.
Anytime you're preserving humanity, you're preserving a value. This is how people thought, this is how people moved. Either the fastness of the pace or the slowness of the pace, but you're preserving something important, not alone the music, but something human.
You say you found work, but you don't say what kind or when you will be coming home. Great to have Donny up here again. He comes from Brooklyn. They call him the Baryshnikov of Bay Ridge. So, he's going to dance for us.
They're the best in the country. I think they're the best in the world.
I find that musicians that I've come to know have very deep spiritual roots. I always refer to music as the sounding of the soul, really. It's the soul expressing itself. It's the spirit of the music and the truth that I'm interested in passing on, and the joy that can be found in it.
Musicians like Jack Coen represent the foundations of the music, and they're the most valuable thing we have in our culture. He has taken the music that was forged over hundreds of years and respectfully carried that on through his life and presented it intact to the next generation.
And the name of it is Dear Irish Boy. I would tell you how it got the name if I knew how, but I don't have a clue what happened to the poor fellow. But I learned it from a friend of mine, Larry Redigan. Music is something that you get more enjoyment out of than anything else, because that's the stuff that keeps you alive, I suppose. And life wouldn't be the same without it. Let's put it that way.
He says that Beebe doesn't stand for anything at all, but around the world he's known as Blues Boy King. One of the most influential, tradition-based black musicians in the country. He's brought respect to the blues. The blues, of course, is one of America's great art forms. It was born at the turn of the century in black